Brian Searl with Insider Perks and Modern Campground. I'm just looking at my camera here, like straight in front of me, and it looks like it's pointed up and that way, but it looks straight when I look at myself on the camera. So I don't know what's happening. Could just be drunk off my kombucha. So welcome everybody to another episode. Appreciate all our recurring guests being here, Matt and Michelle and Curtis, and we have Sandrine. Is it Sandrine or Sandrine?
Sandrine. That's
Sandrine.
right.
Okay, I got it right the first time. So Sandrine joining us from the United Kingdom as well from RMS. Excited to have a good conversation here about all things technology, AI, and everything else that we do on this week with these guests. But let me start by having us go around the room and just let everybody introduce themselves briefly. Matt, you want to start?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brian. Happy to see everybody here today. I'm Matt Whittemore. I am Director of Market Expansion at Unhitched Management and Climb Capital. We are up to 32 parks now, nearly 3,500 campsites, stretching across the country now. Had historically had a focus in the Southeast, but we just acquired a portfolio that now stretches us up into the Midwest. We're now in Texas. We're now in Georgia. A few new states. So we've been busy onboarding all those properties, and it's been a fun but hectic but awesome few months at Climb and Unhitched.
Awesome. Excited to see you guys continue to grow. Michelle?
I'm Michelle Bassan. I'm the CEO of Bison Peak Ventures and Wayhaven Resorts. We are closing out our 10th park, actually, in our 4th marina. We own parks from Alaska down to Florida, and I am slowly trying to get to the level of Matt's company. My gosh.
Did you feel like when you started, you were just like, I don't want to do it differently than everybody else. I want to start at the farthest possible locations I can from each other,
Yeah.
Alaska and Florida, so I can travel more long distance.
I
Or you were just like, I love Florida. I want to go visit there, and I love Alaska. I want to go visit there. That's where I'm going to.
Yeah, no, I did. I actually, when we purchased Alaska, it was mainly because I wanted to visit Alaska and I just fell in love with it. So
Makes sense. You need one in Hawaii then.
Right? Yes, that would be awesome. Or maybe the UK, as we talk to Sandrine later.
That'll work.
Yes.
Curtis.
Hi, I'm Curtis Wilkins with Our Journey in Advanced Outdoor Management. We have locations all across the U.S., the continental U.S. I think we're hanging around with branded locations at 45 and unbranded around 12 to 15. And yeah, that's kind of what we're at right now.
Awesome.
Always looking for new clients as well. We've signed quite a few this winter.
Awesome. Congratulations. Sandrine, last but not least.
Well, nice to meet you all. I'm Sandrine Zachbauer. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at RMS. RMS is a PMS. It is actually quite confusing, but there we are, property management system or reservation management system for parks. You might know us. We originate from Australia, where we've been for many, many years, as long as I've been born. So that tells you, I won't tell you how long that is, but it's a while. And we are quite strong in the US with many parks I was going to say to our name, it's not quite that, but that, have chosen RMS to power their operation. So delighted to join you. You will hear from my accent that I am North American. I'm French, but I live in the UK. I realized I should probably have sent my US colleague for better US representation. But anyway, it feels like it's a good group of friends here. So I'm delighted to join you guys.
There's nothing wrong with we have people from all over the world on the podcast all the time, and I'm in Calgary, Canada, so at least there's 3 countries here now represented. So let's do this first before, because I have some interesting things I want to talk about related to AI. When we were having a brief little conversation before, but to our recurring guests, Matt, Michelle, Curtis, is there anything that is on your agenda that you've come across your desk in the last month since we've been together that you think we should be talking about? Related to obviously our show topic of AI technology, stuff like that.
I think so. I'll jump in because AI has been personally and professionally what's largely been on my plate for the last few months. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means. I use it every day. It's an interesting kind of dichotomy of I use Claude every day. I use ChatGPT every day. I use Whisper Flow every day, which is a a cool new AI voice to text tool. And, you know, I feel like a novice, but then
We
I
all
take a
are.
step back and I feel like I'm kind of getting into it. You know, 2025 for me was the year of prompt engineering, which I think is kind of the most basic level of learning AI. So, you know, quick kind of story is always got frustrated with AI. I would jump into ChatGPT, I would have a project and say, "All right, let's use AI to do this project." And I would spend an hour or two on it, and I'd get incredibly frustrated and say, "AI is not for me." This is like 2024. And then at the end of 2024 and into 2025, I pretty much cleared everything off my desk for 3 weeks and said, I'm gonna push through and, like, at least become a user of AI. Because if I feel like if I don't, I'm gonna be left behind. So I kind of jumped into that prompt engineering, and 2025 was the year for me of, like, prompt engineering and mega prompts and really getting into that, and custom GPTs for little workflows. And then probably at the beginning of Q4 2025, I decided I was gonna make this switch from ChatGPT to Claude. So I created all Claude custom projects for all my different areas of work and my workflows. And we were discussing this before we jumped on, but, you know, started getting into Twitter threads on vibe coding and seeing all the buzz and the hype about building your own agents, building your own web apps, you know, the democratization, if that's a word, of you know, of software development. And said, all right, I'm gonna jump into vibe coding, and was reading and watching YouTube videos, and still haven't jumped in, but I discovered kind of tangentially at that point Claude skills,
Yep.
and decided that was a good, like, interim step, was to convert all of my workflows and projects that were in Claude projects over to Claude skills, which seem a lot more precise and systematic, right? I had an unsophisticated approach of, like, this is what I'm working on. I'm going to start a Claude project. I'm going to dump a bunch of files into the project files. I'm going to put some messy instructions in the project instructions, and, like, just go to town. And, like, it worked pretty well. It worked pretty well. And then I started reading and watching more videos and learning about the syntax of how AI reads and parses data and reads files, and just started incrementally optimizing. All right, I'm going to optimize my project instructions. I'm going to optimize, right? Like, I learned what a markdown file is. Like, now it seems like a markdown file is, like, what we should all know, and that's just what technology is these days. So it's I still feel like I'm scratching the surface, but honestly, it's been life changing. I set up a treadmill in my basement with a TV, and I bring my laptop down, and with Whisper Flow, so I don't type anymore. I am just talking back and forth to Claude skills, walking on the treadmill because I have 17 feet of snow outside in Syracuse. And you know, just back and forth chatting with Claude via Whisper Flow. And it feels pretty life changing, honestly.
Are you when you build your skills, and this is, well, let me start back here. So for all of you who are watching the show, understand that, like, because AI is moving so fast, because there are so many different layers for you to discover. There are, like, I have no life. I'm a geek. I've done this since 2020. There's still probably 3,000 things that I don't know, and there will be 6,000 tomorrow, right?
Yes.
What we're trying to get you guys all to do is just start, like Matt did. Because if you don't start by the time, which we're really already here, that you have to be in AI, it's going to be so overwhelming. There are going to be so many things that you have to do that you'll never, ever, ever, ever catch up. Like, I feel like I'm behind, and I've been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah.
No, wait, 5 years. Really hit hard, though, November, when ChatGPT came out, right, of 2022. So, like, Matt, I'm curious with your skills then, which is a feature of Claude, and basically what they are abilities for. So, like, let's say you have a standard practice of SOP in your business. the way that you create your SOPs. Normally, you would have to go to ChatGPT and you could just say, like, here's what I want to write an SOP for, and it would do a good job. But the next conversation you have, it would do the SOP in a slightly different format. So the way that Claude Skills helps is you create a skill that teaches Claude how you want all of your SOPs done, and then it will load that skill and it will write all the SOPs that you ask it for in the future in that same format. That's one example of many.
Yep.
Are you writing your own SOPs though still? Or your own skills, Matt?
Yes. And like I will say, the most impactful skill that I created was just out of necessity and out of frustration. You kind of alluded to it, that I have 25 different Claude projects. They all have 100 different chats in them. And it's so hard to keep track of the context. And like, you're chatting back and forth with Claude and you're coming to conclusions and you're making decisions. And so what I did was I created a project management skill that really forces the chat into creating a properly formatted markdown artifact and keeps forcing it back into editing that artifact with tracked changes, a change log, and like the clean version, and then the tracked changes version, because I kept driving. I would do a whole day's worth of work on Claude, and then I would write it forgets its own context.
Yep.
So it would spit something out at you, and I'm like, you missed it. You just missed it. Like then I would feel like I just wasted my whole day, and that I can't trust it to like remember its own context.
Well, it's hard. The memory is a weak point. I'll
Sure.
share something when we get to it down the road that I've done that you guys will think is absolutely insane. But the context is the weak part for sure. Claude is pretty good at searching past conversations. I don't know if you figured that out yet. So you can say like, hey, we talked about this. Can you go find the conversation where we did, and then extract all the information you need, but make sure you're not letting it compact a conversation. Like say, like go like look at the actual conversation. Because if you get real long, I don't know if you've noticed that, it'll compact it.
Yes.
Which just means it takes like 10 pages of what you said and compacts it into like 5 lines, which means it's stupid again. So you have to, but the files are there, right? You can tell it to go uncompact it. You can actually tell it to do that. But with skills specifically, I'm probably maybe going to save your life here, Matt. Claude has a skill to make skills.
Yes.
So if you just tell Claude to make me a skill with this information, it will package it and do everything correctly, and you have to click a button.
I'm always reminding it, like, no, use the skill creator skill, because it gives me, it packages as a certain type of file that is a skill file, but it keeps trying to give it to me in just a normal markdown file. It's like, here's the skill you made, and I'm like, that's not a skill. And so then it goes back and redoes it all. Like you have to remind it to use.
Are you using Opus 4.5?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I've never had that issue, but
always with skills, it's like, here's the skill mark.
I haven't built that many, to be honest with you. And I'll, like, when I tell you what I've done later in the show, if we get to that, then you'll be like, oh, that's why. But they're really good. They're right. Like they're one of the, and I think I read somewhere that ChatGPT is thinking about introducing skills in some capacity. And some other places are too. So like it's just a good interim step, like you're talking about, because who has time to vibe code? Most of the people on the show and the people who are watching the show don't even have time to learn Claude skills.
Right.
So, but Michelle has been learning maybe how to vibe code. Didn't you say that before the show? Do you want to talk about that, Michelle?
No, because I feel like I'm dumb now again. Matt just talked. And it was like, what is he talking about?
Hey, I'll give you a demo anytime.
Oh my gosh, I actually had to look up Claude because I was like, I've never heard of this, but we're in the process of like revamping all of our SOPs and stuff. And like, we have our own system internally that we work with, that we kind of like add it all and then, implement all AI and stuff like that together so that we can all, because we're all in different places like you guys are. And as we're adding everything together, it just kind of like blends it all together and then we refine it. But now I'm like, God, I feel like I'm in the 1800s at this point.
Don't feel bad, because I had to neglect all of my other responsibilities for about a month to like dive in.
Robert know that? You just said that live on the show. I just
Well, it's probably for Robert's benefit, though.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is for sure.
It is, and that's where like our next step is like, looking at it from the company level, which is a whole different beast. So we're bringing on consultants to kind of set the direction and set right the strategy and the approach and the policy, right? There's so much to consider in terms of like shadow AI, right? Now that's a huge thing. All we're all members of organizations or employees at organizations, and we're using AI, and there's maybe company stuff that's you're doing your best to do your job, but that's a security concern, and there's so much of that I think people don't really think about yet. So we're kind of dialing it way back and like starting from like point zero of what's our company approach, stance, what tools are we going to use, implementing like an actual like enterprise account, just really starting basic and trying to approach it the right way, and just setting like a 2026 roadmap and beyond for what kind of things do we want to automate, what initiatives are on our radar in terms of what do we want to do with AI. So I've been excited to jump in there.
I want to talk about like automation, Brian, and I know you deal with this too, because we're of course automating a lot of different processes there, but it's sometimes it isn't a question of what you want to automate, because the answer is everything. It's more of what are we in position to automate, right? And because you're on the journey and the skills, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love like hearing that. That's awesome. I know Brian loves hearing that too, and I think everybody that's listening to the show, like, go do that. Like, that's the beginning of the journey. And there's 3,000 things, but I think when we talk about like making it easy for people to understand, like, it's about feeding information in clean to AI, feed it in clean. And the only way you can feed it in clean is if you collect it clean. So, and then you're going to always be tinkering with your prompt. Hopefully that dies down someday. I doubt it. As the AIs get smarter, we just constantly are tinkering. Oh, do we want to change it from the to the, right? I make the joke, but you'll be doing those kinds of like alterations. And so we approach it a little differently. That way we go, we're in position to automate this particular process. I think about like our, how we want to report on specific information. And that might be help your company, right? Just navigate those waters and make some decisions. It's like, well, we have these data sets. I know we all want to do this project, but we have this stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest. Like, I mean, we do that. We consult for a lot of companies in the space, right? And they all want to automate everything. I want to automate everything, right? And the answer that I always tell them, and like you guys know, like we offer AI chatbots and AI call agents, and that's the easiest thing to tell people to start with. But I'll frequently get on the call with people and say, like, if customer service is not your problem right now, you should not start with that. You should start with whatever your biggest time suck is that's causing you headache, or like that if it takes it off your plate, then you can save 2 hours here or 3 hours there, or whether that's you or your GMs or your AGMs or whatever it is, right? And then when the company can see that buy-in of, oh, they just saved Michelle 3 hours or whatever, right? Then it's like, oh, I want to save 3 hours too. Let me step back and look at my day from a holistic first principles perspective and say, this is what I do every day, not through a lens of, do I think it can be automated, but here's what I do every day. Let me go talk to the automation guy, whether that's me or like Matt, you said you're bringing in some consultants and things like that, whoever it is, and say, is it possible for me to do it, to automate this, or to automate pieces of this to make it easier on me? Like HR is an easy one, right? Like so many job applications that everybody has out. Just taking something like that and analyzing it and weeding out all the candidates, to read all the resumes.
Right. Where we're jumping in. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna second your thoughts, Brian, here. Like, AI is cool and it does help, but especially if you look at it from a company lens, which probably is where I'm coming from the most, but you've got to look at your problems. What are you trying to solve? Is your website not converting? Is your volume of calls too high? Is your guest experience poor? then AI can help with that. I would also say that for some of these problems, you don't necessarily need to go into Claude and Vibe Code. Anyway, it wouldn't be my recommendation, because you're dealing with guest information, you're dealing with guest data, you're dealing with, essentially quite critical information for your business. I would obviously advocate for that, given that I work for a software company, but there are software companies that specialize in that. I personally, for all these use cases, would not try and solve for it myself, like through Claude or through Gemini or anything like this. So I would look to the market and actually equip. I know it sounds like super obvious, and you said like it is the first use case, and still so many do not use it. There are still so few chatbots out there on RV property website. I've not tried to ring, so actually I could be mistaken, but when you phone a campsite out of hours, there's very few that pick up through AI voice, which actually are products that are available out of the box today for a few $100s a month. So it's not going to break the bank, and it will take you to market and have some deliverables quickly, as opposed to starting your own vibe coding. However, I do second your opinion also, Matt. Like you do have to start yourself. So you can't wait for your company to tell you what to do. Company will move slower than individuals. And if you feel like we have our own initiatives at RMS around AI, and the reality is it feels overwhelming at the beginning. I was also building my own agent. I don't have the level of proficiency that you seem to have, Matt, with Claude, although I was trying to do something with it earlier. The best teacher for these software is the software. So if you do not know how to use Claude, the best place to find out is to actually ask Claude. Like literally go in there, pay $20, because you must always pay. Also, please always do not use free version, because that's terrible. I mean, it sounds like Captain Obvious, but
I know I have ads soon too, which we can talk about at some point.
Yeah.
But
so get the paid license and say, hey, how do you work? How can I do something? And guess what? It will actually tell you. So if you start with that, it feels a bit less overwhelming, because I think at the beginning you may feel like, whoa, I don't know all these terms, and actually you will be surprised how quickly proficient you become.
Yeah, I mean it's just practice. Practice makes perfect. If you look at it from I have to learn all of these things that Brian is talking about, right? You'll quickly get overwhelmed. But if you just jump into it and start talking to it, then you learn how to prompt like Matt did. Then you take it to the next step, and you learn Claude skills, and then you take it to the next step, and right? And you just move at your own pace. There's no wrong way to do it if you're playing with it. And it doesn't mean you always have to work with it either, right? Like it doesn't mean like I sit down on my couch and I talk to AI all night. Not all night, but but like it's like if you're sitting on your couch with your kids or your family, right? Like bring Disney into it, bring Pixar into it, have it write bedtime stories. Like even though that's not what you're doing for work, that still gives you practice and insight into how it responds and how to prompt and how to talk to it and all that stuff, right? It's going to be like if there's a child that's under, call it 5 years old today, they will never, ever, ever know a world where tens of millions of humanoid robots are walking around by the time they grow up. Like,
so funny that like I get nervous that I'm almost creating a dependency on myself. Like a few times this month, Claude had some serious outages, and like I've been waking up early to get my treadmill AI working, and then Claude's down, and it's like I'm having like withdrawals. I'm like refreshing the screen, like get back up.
well, so to your point though, like to answer your question about like business security, and also that like we're all going to build that dependency as a society, right? And there are different ways that you can handle it. There's lots of studies out there that say like people get dumber when they use AI. Of course they do, but people also get dumber using calculators. Like there's right. People who are going to use it to get dumber, and there's people who are going to use it to critical think. Right. That has been with every technology throughout all of society. It's just easy to pick on AI right now. But to your point about dependencies, the way you make it more dependent and more secure, and again, we're talking about like several steps above where you're at right now with Claude skills, right? Is to use something like LM Studio is a good one. But if you have a powerful enough computer, and you need a powerful one with a big GPU in it, like a graphics chip in it, right? Like a tower, not a laptop, then you can run some of these really powerful open source free models directly on your computer. And that's where you want to store all your sensitive company data, ideally, in those models that are local, that don't go anywhere. Plus, they don't cost to use the API. So they're a lot more cost effective too.
I saw somebody tweeted the other day that their prediction is that heavy LLM usage in like 3 to 5 years is going to be like $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Their take was that all of our LLM usage is so heavily venture capital subsidized right now that that's going to wear off, and that like your $100 a month Claude usage is going to be thousands of dollars a month in 3 to 5 years. What do you think about that?
But the models will be so much more smarter and so much more efficient, and like there's still going to be that competition that races everything to the bottom. Because the AI manufacturers, and we could talk about this for a while, it's not what direction we probably should take it in, but it's a good thought to bring it up. I just mean we don't want to talk about it forever. I think they're going to make their money different ways. Like they're not targeting a $200 billion software as a service market. They're targeting a $7 trillion a year labor market. And whether we like that or not, I'm not saying I support that or want that, but that's what they're going after. So they're going to make their money there. Like they're going to release scientific models that they can deploy to research labs. There was an article about this last week from OpenAI, and they're going to sign agreements with like Pfizer, and they're going to say, if you use one of our models to develop a drug, then we own a percentage of that drug and we get a percentage of those profits. That's where they're going to make their money.
Yeah.
Like little people using the AI, like, I mean, I already spend $5,000 to $10,000 a month in API calls, right? But like, I don't think there wouldn't be enough people who would use it at that point.
Right. Fair.
But it's a good, like, I don't know. I'm just guessing, right? So what else we got, guys?
Well, do you mind if I circle us back to an earlier topic? We were talking about deploying it internal to internal teams, and just like I was just kind of wanted to open it up to the floor. I have thoughts on it as well, but where we talk about deploying small packages to help increase efficiencies. We said Michelle will save 3 hours a week because we deployed this particular package, and I'm like, has anyone experienced any resistance in that area? Like
from the employees you're trying to automate?
We're not trying to automate it because we're taking a very different approach. And maybe I should just go into that approach.
The task you're trying to automate for the employees.
From the task I'm trying to automate, but I make the joke to our team all the time that I don't really see human exchange changing. I do see the expectations of that change, right, or exchange. I expect that's going to go up dramatically. And so I think about it like, I'm going to buy a pencil from Amazon, and Amazon's going to deliver it with a drone, and it's going to sing a little tune about a pencil, and I'm going to go, sweet, I got my pencil, right? And I just say like, I mean, like, that's very dumb. It's unneeded. It's unnecessary, right? But that's what I mean by it's just going to change the experience of something that is boring today, where I just get a plain, simple brown envelope, and we're going to make it into something better. And we should be comparing that to like tasks that people are doing in our business, right? Because we're in hospitality, so everything we want to do needs to be right, beating drums, blowing trumpets, rolling out carpet. And that's kind of how I see this transition in our industry, is just an expansion of service, right? Like each person will get so much that they're just going to develop into what they do for us. And that's how I see these tools. And that's kind of how we've pitched it to the company, right? Like, hey, we're automating these things, but it's so we can do other things really well. Like the thing that we spend 5 minutes on, but we should spend an hour on. We want to figure out a way to get that hour, right?
What do you guys think, Matt, Michelle, Sandrine?
Well, I agree with that because I think that everything we do is based on hospitality. And so if I'm freeing up my desk staff, say, on a busy weekend with check-ins and stuff like that, so that they can actually have that one-on-one moment with somebody and give them that feel good, welcome back you know, this is home for you. Let's remember your name and all that stuff. While all the back end stuff is happening on the computer, I think that that's what the whole system is about, because we're never going to get out of the hospitality. That's what we're here for. And that's what, you know, we're built on. So I think there are going to be things that will eventually be taken away from us so that we can just spend all of our time focused on the guests so that they get that feeling from us. And that's what these tools are meant for.
I think it's really interesting because I think the definition of hospitality is going to change dramatically in people's minds. And that doesn't mean that people are going to want less communication with, you know, the staff at the campground. Some people will, some people won't, which means that you're still, if you're in the hospitality business, you're still going to need to have that personal touch there, but maybe they won't spend all of their 8 hours a day with personal touch. Like I mean, I'll give you a quick anecdote. Like I went to Ireland last year and we stayed in this super old Airbnb castle, and there was a note there, and the lady was like, if you want to meet us, then we're here. If you don't want to meet us. And I went back and forth for like 2 days we stayed there, and I'm like, I don't know. Like I really kind of I love that it's a 3-room castle and I'm the only people here because it was the off season, shoulder season, right? Like it kind of is just cool to be all by myself and not feel like, right, I know they're there, but like, and so I never met the hosts. But so I think that you're gonna see that wrestle with a lot of people's minds as we move forward, and I think it's gonna change how they interact. Not that you don't want to have that available, but what they expect. Like, did you guys ever see that super old movie with Steven Spielberg called AI, Artificial Intelligence? Do you remember anything about like I can't remember the name of the kid who was in it. Super cute kid, whatever. Back then he was anyway. I don't know what he looks like now. It was like anyway. It's a really good movie. It's called AI, but in that movie, there's a kid that kid AI robot or whatever that ends up having a best friend that goes around him named Teddy, and it's a interactive like AI robot teddy bear. Yeah. Super cute.
Haley Joel Osment, Brian.
Haley Joel Osment. Okay. Yeah. But this is what I mean. There's going to be products like that where you can have a hike with your teddy bear when you go camping. And people are going to be like, oh, that's interesting. Like maybe, but then there's going to be also new services that come up where people just want to take a walk with a real human being around their neighborhood. And there'll be entrepreneurs that start that kind of service. So I think the way hospitality is defined is going to change. I think there's always going to be a necessity to have some kind of personal touch somewhere from a human being. But I don't know what that looks like in 10 years. I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, Brian,
No, you go.
I wanted to talk about AI is going to make the connections, like our like day-to-day, like, right, your day-to-day interactions with individuals, like they're going to start to get less and less, right? There's going to be less phone calls. There's going to be less human touch just in day-to-day operations, day-to-day, whatever you're doing in the world. And so I almost it's an interesting, when you say like it's going to become more and more because it's choose your own adventure, right? Like that's the best part about hospitality. It is choose your own adventure. And in camping, and I almost think that maybe camping, it natively has this community aspect to it, that where we do encourage a lot of like, communication between our guests and each other. And I almost wonder if maybe that's just like kind of native to our customer base and my understanding. But that might be the customer base that we attract as an industry too. And so part of me is there, and I'm going, so if everything's getting less and less connected in maybe a more, let's call it work-based, but on their personal choice, like if I had less interactions and I was more lonely at work, I definitely choose to be more connected in my free time. But if I'm very connected during my work time, sometimes I choose to be a little bit more alone, and I kind of gravitate towards the opposite. But that's my personal journey, right? I'm not saying I speak for all humans, but I just kind of wonder.
That's what you have to be ready for at your campground, right?
Yeah.
It is not like now not everybody, obviously, but at least the operators on this call and many people watching us do hospitality really well with in person. But you've got to also be ready, depending on your market and demographic and who you want to target. Obviously, this is campground by campground, right? You've got to be ready to embrace the people who are not what you think your target market has always been. Like we released and we're not here to talk about data, But we released a really fascinating report last Friday on Gen Z, where we did some deep dives and we looked at psychological papers. Insider Perks did this. It's free. It's a free download on our website, where we looked at the real reasons why Gen Z isn't camping. They don't want fast Wi-Fi. They don't want to stay connected. The whole industry and everything I've ever seen on Gen Z, from KOA to sessions at shows to operators I've talked to, is all like they just want all the new tech. That's not what they actually want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very like there's 4 different things they want. It's a huge paper. I don't want to get into it. But one of the things is just like we frequently bring up Earl from Black Folks Camp 2, or I do. And he's got a great program. And in part of what he talks about and has talked about for years is that Black people are nervous to go into the outdoors, partly because of their history, but partly because they grew up in cities and weren't exposed to this. And it's the same thing with Gen Z. They've grew up with their phones. They don't have a comfort level with the outdoors. They don't know how to start fires, and it makes them nervous. And they've been raised in a culture where they're afraid to fail. And so it's just really interesting to look at some of this stuff and understand a different perspective. Almost the entire industry has grown up, metaphorically, right, with boomers, and we're still there. But the future, and this isn't just Gen Z, this is, as we just talked about, this is Black folks, this is anybody who's been raised, this is Gen A that's coming after them. They're not returning to camping. KOA says 37% of Gen Zs are at risk. And the reason is because our campgrounds aren't structured to welcome them. And it's going to be the same way with however hospitality changes too. So you're going to have to decide that as an operator. Who do I want to embrace? And there's not going to be a wrong answer. There's going to be a right one for you.
Yeah. Yeah, Curtis, I loved your where you went with that. Two interesting points is like, I think the perfect campground in today's society offers both of the things that you were talking about. It offers solitude and quiet. And I've been, so dialed in all week, and I want to just hear the birds, and I want to look at the river or go for a hike and just have silence and forest bathe. And then within the same campground, you can serve the people who said, I've been buried and locked into a spreadsheet for the last 70 hours and I need some human connection. And I think that's right. That's what always, when I think of like the perfect campground, it's both of those things. And I personally resonate with what you were talking about, because I was that person. I was a financial analyst. I was living in a small apartment in Center City, Philadelphia. I was working for a software company as a financial analyst. And so I was buried in spreadsheets, working remotely. It was 2018, before everybody else, or most other people, were working remotely. And I would wake up, go to the apartment gym, and then go sit at my desk that was in the corner of my living room. And then I'd blink and it would be 6 p.m. and I'd be like, I haven't spoken to another human or gone outside. And that was
That's
like
still me. Sorry.
that was like 2 years of that. And you know what I did? You know what I did to counteract that? I went and bought my first campground in the Catskill Mountains of New York, where there were more black bears than people. And I went out and I lived in the woods in a campsite and did honey wagon runs and checked people into their campsites and cleansed my brain from spreadsheets for the next 2 years, because, it's like, it's a problem, right? I think we're lonelier than ever. We're right. The word connection is so interesting in that we're as connected digitally as ever, but we're also as disconnected as ever from human to human. So, right, I think people, and then, right, I just think it's so interesting that was 2 years before the pandemic, and then everyone kind of had that experience, had that shared human experience of like gaining 20 pounds and getting depressed and like being as lonely as they've experiencing like a loneliness that they never could have imagined was possible. And, obviously camping was a big story, part of that. After the shuffle of, is it a essential business? Is it not? Are the campgrounds open? Are they not? And figuring that out in the first few months, it was a historic time for our industry. And I think, we've got this big story of, the business is normalized, the industry is normalized, we're back to 2019 type numbers. and a lot of that's true. But I think there was a change in society in that people hung on to both things that you talked about, Curtis. One is, I want to go be alone in the woods. Like, we see people with money, high income, highly paid professionals, entrepreneurs now love to go rough it in the woods and pitch their own tent more than I think in probably in the last few decades. RVing is coming back. I think it's changing. And you talked about baby boomers, Brian. I think that's a whole interesting evolution of the business. It's conversion vans and pop-up campers and small travel trailers, and it's a really fascinating time to be in this industry. And I think there's a lot going on, and I don't think anybody knows where we're going, really.
No, I don't know where we're going a year from now. But it's a perfect example. We've solved it in camping, right? So like, you just put a section of your campground, like you were saying, Matt, as the ones who can be more human, right? If that's what people want, and then an isolated section.
Yep.
And we already have taken all the lingo and we've made it happen. We just call it human in the loop.
I like that.
What do you think, Sandrine?
If we think about AI and how is it gonna take away from the human touch? But at some point in your booking journey or in your travel, you just need information. You don't necessarily want, do you have a pool? Is there a fire pit? Do you sell marshmallows? You don't necessarily need the whole story. You just need an answer. And I think for that, AI is brilliant. And at some point, you may not want that connection. The story, kind of why they're here, why your story, Matt, like why did you set this up? What are you trying to do? What's the story or the vision behind the capes, whatever that might be, and a community of campers. Then obviously AI may, but right now it doesn't do that. I mean, I think it does in Asia. I think some people are marrying some bots and stuff, but I think for most folks that's not on the cards. So I think
Yet,
that's true. And maybe we'll all be married to our ChatGPT avatars.
I mean, I won't be, but don't be surprised if you have a grandkid. I bet 30% of them are married to AIs. If you have a grandkid right now, you wait.
That'd be interesting for our future customers, because that's not gonna reproduce very quickly. But see how that goes.
That's a whole nother. That's a different podcast.
We won't be here for it. So we'll be fine. But I think there is AI can supplement without taking away. Like, I'm French, so my level of expectations of service isn't as good as what you would expect in America. You're lucky for most hotel if French people answer you. So I would take, that sounds really bad, but it's unless I pay literally top dollar for a 5-star property, in which case they couldn't do more for you. If it's, I might get some death threats after this, but if it's anything like a campsite, if it's anything, beyond ultra luxury, you're gonna get a very average service. At this point, I'm quite happy. If I get my answer and it comes from a bot, I'm quite happy with that. As long as I can do what I want, I have my information, I can check in, check out, do my payment, I'm good. Like, I know where everything's at. I know if there is a class of yoga that I want to take, that this is good. And AI can answer all of this. I wouldn't get more necessarily from a human. It is not true in America, where your service is always good.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
In my experience, it's good. Like, your service is better, than French service. Like, it's just that's a cliche, but it's also the truth. So I think there are sometimes where the human side isn't always that great either. And an AI that understands my accent and can answer me, potentially even in my language, is amazing. Like, it can be amazing. So I'm all for it.
Yeah. Totally agree with you, Sandrine, there. I think, having called, I don't know, probably thousands of campgrounds, either to book sites as a real customer or as a secret shopper to try and figure out if the campground's for sale. And, the standard is that you don't get a call back for 5 days, right? Or 3 weeks sometimes.
Forever,
so to your point, to have an AI answer the phone and actually get you the information that you're looking for, even if it's a little choppy and it takes a minute and it stutters and it makes you feel awkward, when the alternative is you never get that information, that is absolutely hospitality. And I struggled with that for so long of, no, this is a human, old-fashioned business. I don't want a robot answering the phone. I've completely changed my tune on that. Yeah,
it's still better. It's still an answer. I still get my answer. I don't have to ring you back tomorrow. I don't have to ring you back when you're open because I might be working. So that is actually being hospitable as well. I think.
And I don't have to go to your competitor either because you didn't answer.
We see that all the time.
Matt, Michelle, you guys might have different stats than me. Brian, you might have different stats than me, but if you don't answer that phone, you have 2 minutes. And that's about how much time it takes them to find another campground to call.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I also wonder if that leads to the problem in our industry as well, right? Where we talk about, well, it is a problem that they don't call back, but I bet a lot of these like campgrounds that aren't maybe staffed to the level that they want to be, or they don't have the systems in place, they don't use Brian's AI call center agent. When they miss a call, they've probably been burned a lot because they have called back. And then you learn it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like most of the time when they call back, it's not worth their time because they've already booked at another campground, and you just hear that how many times as a campground owner before you all of a sudden just go, okay, that's not profitable. I'm just going to stop doing that voicemail and only deal with my long-term customers. I don't know. That's me speculating. I don't.
Well, the other thing people aren't thinking about is what happens when the AI makes phone calls for people. Yeah. Because very few people actually want to talk on the phone, right? And so you're already seeing this. Google already has these features in search for a limited number of restaurants, I think. But you're going to eventually have the ability for your AI to call parks and get the information because, let's be honest, these campgrounds that you're acquiring, Matt and Michelle and Kurt, like you are acquiring them for many reasons, but some of them might be related to the fact that they've done no marketing and it's all upside if you just put a little bit of work into it, right?
Yeah.
But even if you have a good website, there's so much information about your campground and what you can do there in the local area and stuff that most parks don't put on their website. The only way you can get that information is to either go or to call. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a huge increase, I think, in the volume of calls to parks, despite all the technology available, but it's going to be AI calling because you can say, AI, find me a campground near Bend, Oregon, for example, right? And it will go and it will call 200 parks within a 150-mile radius of Bend, Oregon, instead of the 3 that the human being would have called. Who's answering all those calls?
Exactly.
Like if you're already short-staffed.
You would have agent to agent conversations going on. It'd be crazy.
Would it be a phone call, or would it be like I look at like RMS as like as a great solution here. And Cedrine, sorry, maybe if I'm stealing your thunder, but wouldn't you want to expose we own a property management system as well, and like the way we talk about it is we're trying to figure out how to expose endpoints to these agents so that like we don't even have the phone call. Like
you want to do that, but we're talking about the level of like Matt last year and Matt this year, and then going to that, right? Yeah. So we're a ways away from campground. Like the intermediary step is something else, but you're not wrong with your thinking.
Yeah.
Yes, you should. And we work with a partner called Maima that does all the chatbots, AI chatbot for us, like in all languages and all sorts. And they were pulling out some stats for us. And basically, the top 20 questions is like for every property, and they might be different, right, property by property, but briefly, the top 20 questions come up like 80% of the time. So it's not even that complex. It's like, when's the pool open? Do you have like, what facilities do you have in your kitchen? Do you sell firewood? Like, all these things. Roughly, the top 20 question is 80% of the volume. So this is really where, like, at some point, if somebody picks up the phone, like, there's only so many times you can say, yes, the pool's open from whatever. Like, this is where AI really, so first off, you should really expose this in your website in the first place, so that actually that feeds the AI searches, but that's another sort of more marketing conversation. But if you do not, then at least have something for people to find that information straight away, because it does feel like a missed opportunity to not have any solution. And there are so many still that don't like talk about, that's not even AI, but just a booking engine like this. I don't know how that's
Don't fill out their
possible.
photos and site types and descriptions and all that. Yeah.
That's the bookings for you. Like, of course we can phone, but that is really like, and we see still a lot of properties with nothing, just Excel spreadsheets still, and no particular way of enhancing that experience. That I'm guessing these are the parks that you guys buy.
Sandrine, you feel free to send all of those to me, and then Matt, don't worry, I'll forward them to you.
You're not wrong. Like, it's an intermediary step right now, right? It's very easy to go to Google and look up a company like Chatbase and get a chatbot up and running that'll run like the top 20 or 50 frequently asked questions that you have, right? It's a whole different ballgame when agents start calling your park on behalf of the woman who has a 7-year-old daughter who, and then it needs more information about your playground, right? Because the agent can gather that and talk more quickly to an agent or to a human if you're overstaffed, because then it's going to know that this 7-year-old girl likes to stay out in the sun longer than she should, and she doesn't love to put on sunscreen. So do you have a metal slide or a plastic slide? And she's tend to like being a little bit more klutzy than the other neighbor girls, so she might fall. Do you have mulch or do you have pavement underneath your playground? And it's going to start to ask all these questions, and you're going to have to be prepared for that. Right now, it's 20. It's the easy. We're in the easy spot right now.
Yeah, correct. But it will complexify, and guest experiences or guest expectations will only increase. Like, it is normal. I do not have any patience. I would not call back ever. I'll be like, nah, so missed it.
All right, let's spend the last few minutes of the show. We're going to do our typical everybody gets to ask everybody else a question. So maybe we'll start with Michelle. Michelle, just pick anybody from Matt, Curtis, or Sandrine. You can ask a question if you want, and then we'll follow on from that person. But everybody can only be asked a question one time. So once somebody asks Michelle a question, nobody else can ask Michelle a question. So Michelle, go first. Who would you like to pick?
Oh my gosh, you're going to put me on the spot?
Ask a question to anybody.
Wait, can I clarify? Is Brian in the circle?
No, Brian's not in the circle.
Brian is not in the
You
circle.
guys have more interesting things than I have to say.
Okay, Matt, if you were to suggest as a newbie to go into learning a skill, which would be the first AI system that you feel like would be a good start for somebody?
This is a really great question, Michelle. I would say ChatGPT, because I believe they have the best resources available in terms of courses, like actual OpenAI courses and YouTube videos and resources. And that's someone who's migrated away from ChatGPT. I wish Claude had better, versions of that. But I think an LLM is an LLM. So like if you learn one, you're learning a lot of great stuff for the other one. So I've actually thought about that a lot. And that was my conclusion, is that ChatGPT is the best for a beginner because of the resources available.
All right, Matt, who do you want to ask a question to?
Good question.
Well, it might be. We don't know your question yet. But kind of egotistical, Matt.
No, I meant you. It's a good question.
I know what you meant, Matt. I'm just messing with you.
Sandrine, I would say, being obviously in the tech world, are you seeing it right? I guess a brief statement before the question to add some context. In my kind of trying to learn the basics of AI and feeling like I jumped in without really knowing what AI is, one of my bigger conclusions has been that really the reason that all of us should care as consumers on the consumer level, or B2B consumers should care about AI, is because of what it does for our tech providers in terms of being able to iterate and ship updates and build new features and products so much more quicker and more efficiently. Are you seeing that internally at RMS and among your peers and everything? Is that right? Like I literally Googled earlier today, we were having a conversation, like, is it normal for a software engineer to default to vibe coding? you know, and it was a mixed answer. It was like, not quite, but almost. So I just, as a person on the inside of the technology side, I'd love to get your kind of what's your perspective and view on that.
I think if you're not on board, you have a very quick risk of going extinct. And that's, as a company, the way we operate, the same as you operate, and also specifically around the product. There is the belief that, we spent 40 years building this, nobody could come and copy it all in a day, a 15-year-old kid with a cloud license. And of course, some of it is true. Like, it wouldn't be possible. However, we are now, the CPO of RMS is putting AI first. We had this major initiative to really think about where can we. It's exactly what you said. Where can we accelerate? How can we improve the design? How can we ship faster? We already know what we want to work on. We know what our customers are struggling with. We know what they want. So we want to use this as a fail fast, ship fast type of approach. So it is actually very, honestly, even in 2 years, how much it's changed in the way we think. Before you would need to launch something else, you would have needed another engineer, and that would have been a wreck, and that would have been a whole thing. And now it's just no, probably how can AI do that? So we're doing things like the team is going on the ground, going to spend 3 days with a customer somewhere in Australia, I don't remember where, and they're just going to relook at some of the modules and be like, okay, how do you use this? How can we buy? And actually just do it there and then. And by the end of it, hopefully just have a whole new housekeeping module re-prototyped and ready to try. So I think it's that type of work that is coming out and is really interesting. But for us, it's not maybe we'll look at it. Maybe we'll see where it goes. Maybe it won't go anywhere. Maybe I'll just look at it next year. For us, it's like a mandate. We have to have it. So
awesome. Super interesting.
All right, Sandrine, you have Curtis or Michelle? Oh,
yeah. Well, I'll go ladies because I have to. It's it's just the nature. So Michelle, so for me, from my background, so you're obviously the CEO of this Bison Peak venture. Why did you get into it, and why do you still love what you do? I know it's not AI related, but I just would like to know.
Actually, I was a real estate investor for years. And so I have portfolios of long-term rentals. I have boutique resorts. I have all kinds of things that kind of play in the background. And about a couple of years ago, I jumped into my first campground thinking, oh, this will be a great investment. And then just kind of fell in love with it. I loved it. I fell in love with the hospitality of it, getting to be able to sit around and meet the guests that were there. And it just became this thing that was kind of bigger than myself. And that's kind of why I got into campground investing, was because it was just, I saw the opportunity to create something that was making core memories for families, basically, giving people something bigger to kind of give them that moment to disconnect, as we talked about earlier, and to really connect. I know for us, COVID was kind of a pivoting moment for a lot of people. My husband was in a large international business. He was one of the leads in North America. And so doing something that brought him back home where we could do something together was really important to me. And we were able to retire him out of his W-2 and have him jump into it with me. And now we work together, and we're always together, and we both love it. Well, I love it. I think he loves it.
He's not on this call, so we say
he'll never tell you otherwise. I'll tell you that. So, I think, but giving everybody else the opportunity and having kids that are graduating. My baby just got accepted into the University of Virginia. So she's
nice. Congratulations.
Here. Thank you. She also got a full ride naval ROTC scholarship. So
that's good.
I feel like I got a pay raise. So, but just knowing the memories that I had with my kids and knowing that I get to provide that for other families. I know not every campground is built for that, but those are what my campgrounds are built for. Just knowing that I get to provide that for other families means a lot to me.
All right. Last but not least, we're odd man out here. Does anybody have a question they want to ask Curtis? Whoever wants to go first. Somebody must have a question for Curtis. He's got so much knowledge locked up in his head.
I know, he's so smart.
So, Curtis, I don't know much about this algo. I don't know much about this. It looks like everybody's buying all these campground. So can you tell me just a bit about like current state of the campground market? Like, is this where I should invest instead of AI? Should I get my money and get myself a US park? No, there's no.
Okay, that was not the question I was expecting to get.
Hopefully,
You have thoughts
Rob
on
is
it.
listening to the podcast and on audio and didn't see that.
Well, no. I was like, okay, well, real estate market in the whole in the United States, it's actually a really good time to be buying real estate. Interest rates are historically high, right? So that means real estate values are suppressed. We're also seeing like a transition away from, and there's like disruption going on in real estate, whether that's apartments, long-term. So I actually am very bullish on real estate right now because it's in a cycle moment and you're going to get a lot of compression from that long-term. So the answer on real estate is yes. Now, campground industry specifically, I'm in it. I'm always bullish on it. I don't care if we were at the highs of 2022 or now. Like, there's room to grow. There's room everywhere in the campground industry to improve, just because it has been in the, I'm going to call it boomers' hands for so long. In this, like, we talk about like the bar of hospitality in our industry, and this group of people here is very critical of that. So I always take us with a grain of salt. Because we all service hundreds of thousands of people every year, and we only deal with like 2,000 complaints. That's what this group like talks about every day. So, but yeah, overall bullish. I would recommend, if you are going to buy a campground, I like to see campgrounds that you either very boutique and niche, and you are servicing a very particular clientele, or you're on the little bit of the larger side in terms of like commoditization of the product, right? Like a hotel. Boutique hotels, 20, 30 doors, they do very well. Hotels over 150 doors do really well. Don't try not to fall in that middle ground, or else we're positioning and we're doing a lot of work for that in that zone. But overall, yes, love the industry.
I want to add one thing to that and say, like, Sandrine, have you heard of the Glamping Industries Trade Association in UK?
I have heard of them. We're not a member of them. We're a member of the American one. I was looking at them. Are they good?
They're new, right? But I've talked to John and I'm a member, although I think I own dues. Anyway, I'm going to be a member if I'm not already officially. But it's a good organization, and they wrote the reason I brought them up is because they had a really interesting post on LinkedIn the other day about the state of the caravan market in the UK and how it's not as built up.
I have seen that actually. It came up in my feed.
So I think the path to ownership for you in the UK might be radically different and easier than it is in the US.
Oh yeah, legit, especially now. But I would 100% do that. It's good. I'll work on my second career plans. I'll do like you, own a campground. That'll be good. Put all the tickets.
Well, we're a little bit over here. So Michelle, where can they learn more about what you have going on?
Well, you can always find me on Instagram at Michelle Bisson. I have my own YouTube channel where I talk about all things campground, and you can always find me on my webpage at michellebisson.com.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Michelle. Matt, where can they find out more about you?
Yes, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Pretty active there. I've got a newsletter called Outdoor Hospitality Weekly. Do a podcast there as well. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Matt Whittermore, M Whittermore at unhitchedrv.com. You can email me anytime.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you being here. Curtis?
You can find me at ourjourney.com and AOM or advancedoutdoormanagement.com. Both of those places, you can get a hold of Curtis. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn as well, Curtis Wilkins.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Curtis. And Sandrine, last but not least.
Yes, on LinkedIn, of course, but my name is difficult, so good luck. Try Sandrine Z, that might land. And then on the website, obviously, rmscloud.com. I'm there as well, so not difficult to find. Love to connect.
Well, thank you guys all for joining us in another episode of MC Fireside Chats. If you're not tired of hearing about me or hearing from me, we're going to be on another podcast in about 55 minutes with Scott Barr from Cairn Consulting Group. We're going to talk about some data, some new numbers that have come out, and obviously the latest news and about AI and some more geeky stuff we'll go into there, and we'll drink beer and have fun. Other than that, we'll see you on a next episode of MC Fireside Chats. Take care, guys. I appreciate y'all.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.